In this video,
we're going to talk about patience, frustration, and our move from Leyte to Negros Oriental. Stay tuned. Wilma wanted me to do this video for a long time now in this method to talk about some of our issues. On our channel, you guys know we keep it very positive and show all the good things in the Philippines and rarely show a lot of challenges. So what we wanted to do today is go over with you our move from Leyte to Negros, and it was a challenge.
more like a nightmare.
Yeah, you could characterize the move as a nightmare. So guys, when we bought this property, we made 2 trips here to Negros, and we finally had our deed of sale. So this video is going to take us on this journey from the point we got our deed of sale. The property is now ours. We're working on getting the title. We've already met with the architect. He has our design. He is putting that, getting ready for blueprint. He's working on the 2D design. We met with multiple contractors. We picked our contractor. He was working on the contract. So all of that work was in motion all at the same time. But we needed to go back to Leyte.
Yes.
We had to get our stuff. So what we did was we made a plan of going back to Leyte for 6 weeks, and that was the plan. Now, if it needed to go to 5 weeks, 7 weeks, 8 weeks, no big deal, but our plan was we'll go back for 6 weeks, and that would give us plenty of time to do the things that we needed to do in Leyte. We needed a few documents, we needed to pack up, and we needed to find a moving company.
And that was a challenge.
Big challenge. So with everything going on, I was really working back and forth with the architect on Zoom meetings, dialing in, because when we got back to Negros Oriental, my goal with the architect was have the blueprints ready to go. Meaning I signed off on the design with all the tweaks that we made, and he was going to blueprint, and then when we arrived here 6 weeks later, we would have the blueprints in hand, and then I could schedule a meeting between the architect, the contractor, and myself, and we could actually display for the first time our blueprints to the contractor and talk about the build itself. So I was working on that. So Wilma was in charge of finding the moving company.
Yeah, which is a very challenging, guys. Again, I use Facebook Market, and I was able to find at least 4 different ones.
Right, yeah.
But they only moved certain island.
Yeah.
For Leyte was very minimal.
Right.
It was narrowed down to 2.
Right.
So I was going back and forth with them through Messenger.
Yeah.
And during that time, it still had some restriction traveling, from island to island. So it was make it more difficult.
Yeah. And I remember one of them backed out, right? One of the 2.
They backed out.
They basically ghosted us and didn't return any messages. No. So we were really down to 1.
Just 1.
Where they did go to Leyte and they were communicating with you.
Yes, and it was just like it was just a nightmare.
So what we did was once when we got it narrowed down to 1, we went to a contract. Now what we did was we took photos of all our items. So our bed and our wardrobes and our couch and TVs, and we had 35 ballot buying boxes, my scooter, we had a couple pieces of bamboo lawn furniture. So we took photos and sent them to the moving company, because I kept saying to them many times, make sure you bring a big enough truck. We don't want to leave things behind. And guys, when I say we said that 6 or 7 times, we said it 6 or 7 times. Do you remember?
Even the day before,
Right.
when they were getting ready to be en route, we remind them again.
Make sure you bring the right size
I was
truck.
calling them back and forth. I was actually being in the book.
Yeah. So what we did was, remember, it was a 6-week period. It probably took about 2 weeks to nail down the person. So we were 4 weeks out. So what I said to Wilma, once we had the document, our contract, we said 4 weeks out, 3 weeks out, 2 weeks out, 1 week out, send them a message to remind them of the dates and times and the fact that we needed a certain size truck. Now remember, we sent all the photos of everything that we had. They had no questions. They said no issue. So we did that communication. Then I said to Wilma, when we get to the last week, because what I was nervous about was we had everything scheduled, we were ready to go, and if they canceled on us, we were stuck. So we didn't want to do that. So I said 1 week out, start pinging them daily. And that's a lot of communication, and it probably got them a little frustrated, but we were very, very concerned that something was going to go wrong. And boy, did it. So one day out, they said, we'll be there first thing in the morning, and we'll be there, I think they said like 8 a.m. We'll be there sharp at 8 a.m., no issues whatsoever. So the day of the move, now we were all packed, everything was ready to go. We had all the furniture either broken down, we had everything pulled out, cleaned. It was all ready to go. So it made it much easier for the moving company. Now the moving company themselves, our contract was for the truck, the driver, and a helper. So the truck driver and the helper would do all the physical work of packing everything into the truck, driving to Dumaguete where our apartment was, unloading everything, and then setting up like beds and things like that. So that was the agreement, basically from end to end, moving everything and doing all the physical labor, okay? So morning of, Wilma and I got up
So early.
at 6 a.m. Remember that time, 6 a.m. So I started packing the truck, my truck, with all things that we didn't want in their truck, so more personal items. And I figured, why not just pack the truck as much as possible, so we just have more items on our truck, which makes it easier for them. So starting at 6 a.m., packing away, you know how it is here in the Philippines, the sun's beating on you. It was a hot day. So they called us right away and said, we have a delay. We're not going to get there to 12 noon. And Wilma and I said, okay,
not bad.
we're packing the truck, we're still going, we're okay. But we said, but wait a minute. If you're delayed 4 hours, we had the ship going from Ormoc to Cebu set up for the late afternoon. If you're going to be delayed 4 hours, is that going to make us miss the boat? I was trying to think of the logistics. Well, obviously they didn't know what logistics was because they said, no problem, we'll make the boat. So we said, okay, sounds great. But at least I let them know. Around 12 o'clock, no truck. They contacted us a little after 12 and said, we're running late. I guess they were running really late. We're not going to get there to 5 p.m. So I said, okay, that's not good. So now, we've already been up for 11 hours. We're ready to go. The truck has been long packed. We've had everything tear down. So like the TV's in the truck, can't watch TV. It was just, we had nothing to do. So we just sat around waiting for the truck to arrive. The truck arrived at 5:30 p.m. So we pinged them and said, hey, you're going to have to reschedule because our boat was like 6 p.m. How are you going to, load up the whole truck and get there in 30 minutes? So they said, yeah, no problem. We'll just reschedule it. There's a later ship. So we said, okay, sounds good. So as they pulled to the house, Wilma and I was just sitting on the front porch, and I looked at her immediately, and I said, they just brought I call it a non-CDL 16-foot box, single axle. The truck is way too small. And Wilma said, nah, I hope everything will be okay. And I said, that's just no way. It's not gonna fit. So the guys backed in, got out, nice guys, and I said, you guys have no chance. I mean, you absolutely have no chance. They said, we saw the pictures, we will get everything loaded, no problem whatsoever. So I said, well, what about the ship? Did you guys reschedule? They said, well, the dispatcher will do that, and he's gonna let me know. He did call me and say that he was gonna reschedule, meaning the dispatcher to the driver, and that they're in communication. So I'm assuming, they know logistics, everything is gonna be okay. So they started loading the truck, try to speed things along. They finally came to us and said, it's not gonna fit.
We know that.
So I said, just thinking like, from the US, get a bigger truck, have someone send it over. Well, that's just impossible.
No.
It's never gonna happen. There is no bigger truck. If there is a bigger truck, it's in Manila. It'll take 3 days to get there. It's just not gonna happen. So the guys knew I was not happy. So bottom line is, fast forward, we had to take the scooter off the truck, and then I was gonna drive the truck. Wilma's a passenger, our own personal truck. Everything else in the moving van, good to go. Now I had to drive the scooter. Wilma had to drive the truck that was loaded. And then what we also had to do is start offloading a lot of the larger items and put it on top of the truck that we already packed. So we packed a lot of boxes, and I put a tarp around it and tied everything down. And it was about even with the top of the cab, so it was loaded. We had to put our big rocking chair, our love seat. I think there was a third item that we had to put on top. So now we definitely look like Hobo Joe going down the road. And we had lawn furniture basically strapped 3 or 4 feet above the cab, and secured it the best we could because we packed everything. So we didn't have bungee cords readily available. So we did our best to try to tie everything down. And I said, this is not going to be good. So that was the best part of the move right there, because things just spiraled downhill from there. So now we said, when are we scheduled to get on the ship? The dispatcher says, unfortunately, they're booked for the night. We're gonna have to go across Leyte, about an hour and a half, where we're only about 15 minutes away from the ship. We had to travel an hour and a half. Remember, I'm on a scooter.
That was already late that night.
It was already,
10 o'clock.
yeah, it was 10, 11 o'clock at
We
night.
were up at 6 o'clock that morning.
Right. So at this point, we're already spent. So they had to reschedule to get on a different ship that was an hour and a half away. So we said we have no choice. So I think it was like 10:30 at night. I said to the guys, I know that port. Do you know how to get there? Yes, sir, no problem. We know exactly where to go. So we pulled out. Now remember, they're in the truck. I'm in the scooter, 10:30 at night. Wilma's in the truck behind me, overloaded. So here I go following the truck. They come out, they go wrong turn.
Yeah.
So I'm like, they're going the wrong way.
That don't look good.
So I try to pass them on the scooter and get them to pull over. And I say, which way are you going? The port's this way. Sir, I have all the information here on my phone. We have a route to go. I'm
Shortcut.
like, a shortcut, they said. So we said, I don't know of any shortcut. I've been on this island for 11 months. So guys, you're not gonna believe this. They took a turn on a goat path.
Yeah.
It was the worst road we've ever seen anywhere in the Philippines. The stones that was on this road was big as bowling balls, and I couldn't get up there with the scooter.
Yeah.
And then you could see that there was so much rain coming down this road. There was just gullies, and the road itself was so I started flashing the light, and the guy just went. He just went right up the road. He didn't stop. So it took me probably a kilometer to get him to finally pull over. And at that point, I was pretty upset.
Yeah, I was having a hard time with the truck and trying to
Navigate.
maneuver and navigate.
Right.
Boy, it was tough.
So he showed me, sir, this is just, I said, no, look at Google Maps. It's like literally 40 miles you're going to be driving on this road. There's no way you can only go 10 miles an hour. We need to turn around. And he basically said we don't want to because the road was so narrow. And then that's when I had to say, listen, turn the truck around now and you'll follow me to the port. So the actual passenger said, I agree with Greg. The driver didn't want to cooperate, but we finally did turn it around. So now we're up against the time because I think
2 o'clock.
2 a.m., right?
2 a.m., yeah.
2 a.m. ship. Remember, we're up at 6 a.m.
Yeah.
So the ship was 2 a.m. and now it's probably 11:30 at night, and we have to go at probably a half hour to get back to square one, and then another hour and a half. So we're 2 hours away. So we're up against missing the ship. So we turned it around, and I told the guy, "You follow me to the port. I'm the foreigner."
And it's all highway.
It's all highway.
And concrete.
Yeah, it's all concrete.
Yeah.
So 2 hours later, we get to the port. I'm pushing it as fast as I can. But remember, it's nighttime. So now we're talking 1 o'clock in the morning, pitch dark with a scooter light, with dogs and everything else. So we get to the port, and literally we made it in with 30 minutes to spare. They were already loading the ship. So we get on the truck, like one of the very last trucks on the ship, and we're getting ready to go. So now it's probably 3 a.m. because it took them an hour to get the ship loaded. We finally get on. It's like a 4-hour ship ride from Leyte to Cebu, 3.5, I think. So I said, maybe I could lay in the truck because now I'm almost at 24 hours up, Wilma and I. So I said, we'll park the scooter, we'll park the truck, I'll get into the truck, we'll leave it running, have the aircon on, and maybe I can get some sleep. So we're getting ready to leave. All of a sudden, the ship itself, the big gate that goes up, was all up ready to go. They lowered the gate. And we said, what the heck's happening? And all of a sudden, all the workers came out, and they started talking to all the drivers to pull the trucks off the ship.
Yeah.
And I'm going, what the heck's happened? So we started inquiring, and what they said was that the very first tractor trailer that was in the back of the boat had 3 people in it, driver, 2 helpers. Well, that truck only showed 2 QR codes to go to Cebu. So there was basically a stowaway on the truck. It was just a worker who never took the time to get a QR code. They kicked the tractor trailer off the ship. Well, guess what? It took an hour to load the ship. It took an hour to offload the ship, a little bit less, because you're just pulling out. They had to take the tractor trailer off the ship, and everybody had to back on again.
Yeah.
So we're going, boy, it can't get any worse than this. So we offloaded, reloaded, and now we're off. Now we're probably talking, 4 o'clock in the morning. We've been up for 22 hours. Try to sleep. Impossible to sleep because of the sound of the engine in the ship. It's just, a constant loud diesel, probably multiple diesel engines, just making so much noise in that hull of the cargo ship. We did not get 1 wink of sleep.
No.
Not to mention, I said, hey, we'll go in the truck, turn the aircon on, and we'll sleep. Well, knock, 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 sir, you have to turn off your engine. You can't have it run because of the fumes. And I'm like, fumes? You got these giant diesel engines running the ship. Who cares about a pickup truck? You have to turn your truck off. So as soon as you turn the aircon off, it's 95 degrees in the truck in 3 minutes. So I said, I can't lay here, I'm gonna melt. So we had to go up top and just get a chair and just sit there. So now we're 3.5 hours, we get to Cebu. Didn't know that this ship didn't go to Cebu City.
No.
It went to the very top of Cebu, the island of Cebu. So now, not only do we have to drive the scooter, Wilma has to drive the truck, and then the moving van has to go from Cebu City down to the very southern tip of Cebu. And if you know Cebu City, it's about centrally located in the island. We're at the northern tip. So it took 3 hours to drive from the northern tip of Cebu just to get to Cebu City, which was where we were supposed to start from.
Yes.
So it was a 3-hour trip just to get even. So now we're talking, I think we landed somewhere around 7 a.m. The truck had to get gas. We had to stop and fuel up the truck. Of course, it was on E. And then we had to drive 3 hours. So now we're not getting to Cebu City to somewhere around, I think 11 o'clock in the afternoon.
Rush hours, yeah.
And it was rush hour. And guess what happened? It rained. And I was completely soaked. So I did the 3 hours and I said, when you get to Cebu City, pull over. Well, the driver decided not to pull over. Actually, he went to a red light and went through the red light in Cebu City. Now, if you know anything about Cebu City, they have red lights and they have traffic enforcers at every light. So it's the truck, where are we at? We're at 21 minutes. This is gonna be a long video. So it was the truck, it was me and the scooter, Wilma. I had to make a decision. I knew Wilma wasn't gonna go through the red light. Do I stay with Wilma, we lose the truck? Or do I flag the truck down, go through the red light in a city of 1 million people and flag the truck down? So I had to make a snap decision. I decided to leave Wilma at the red light and I go after the truck. As I went through the red light, he went through a red light. So when I went through the red light, it was like the traffic was already going. The traffic enforcers tried to stop me and was reaching for me to stop me in the intersection. So I just had to gun it and they just missed and I had to go after the truck. So the truck was it took me a mile to pull this guy. I was flashing lights, so you could see that I was getting hotter and hotter. So now we lost Wilma in the city. So I got him pulled over, and the only way I could get him pulled over, he wouldn't pay attention to the lights, my flashing lights. I actually had to pass him in the city and cut the truck off to get him to pull over. So needless to say, we were no longer friends. That's when I lost it. And I used all the language that I would normally not use here in the Philippines, and really let him know that I wasn't happy. So I did see a Robinson Mall just a block away. So I told him to pull the truck up, pull over, shut the truck off, and we had to call Wilma. So Wilma's driving, she lost us. So now we got her on the phone. It took 30 minutes
To find you guys.
for her to find us. So I
Because
told
it was
her
pouring rain.
it was pouring rain. So I said, Google Robinson Mall, then drive. But the mall is a big giant building. We were on the other side and she was on. So she said, I'm at the mall. I said, well, there's 4 sides to the mall. Just drive all the way around. She finally found us. And now you are not happy.
I was pissed.
Needless to say, we were both very, very upset. Pissed is a better word. So I said to the guy, and then the passenger, the helper said, very, very sorry. So anyway, we take off to go south. We still have another 6 hours of driving down to get to the southern tip of Cebu. So I told the driver, this is how we're going to do it. The passenger is going to be responsible. He's going to keep track on his cell phone. Every 2 hours, pull over so we can, at least I can get up and walk around a little bit. And I said to Wilma, when we pull over, please don't get out because I wanted her to stay in the confines of the truck. So we're going down several trips. We pull over. Usually the drivers would get out and the helper would get out. And I noticed that, after a few hours, they would look at me and start laughing. And I would say, why are these guys laughing at me? And it didn't make any sense. So the last stop, so now we're 2 hours away from another ship to take us over to Negros Oriental. And we had a good pull-off area, and it actually was a place to get some food, and they wanted to get some food, and we wanted to get some water and stuff like that. So Wilma got out and said, well, I got out off the scooter, and the guys got out of the truck, And they both shook their head and they went, oh, they started laughing so bad. So I finally said to them, why are you laughing? Wilma came up behind me. She started laughing. And I didn't know why. Well, what happened was driving through, with the rain, driving through that city and then following all the trucks down the island, the diesel soot was all over me. I ruined a shirt and I had a helmet on, but I mean, I had sunglasses on. I was completely black from head to toe. My hands, my legs, because I had shorts on. When I say I was black with soot, it was really bad. I was black with soot. So there's nothing I can do. So I said, this is power on. So we got to the boat, the second boat to go about 45 minutes over to Negros Oriental. So we got there and the ship was about 30 minutes from taking off. They were loading the trucks on. So there was a hose by the ticket office. And I said to Wilma, do you mind if I just strip down to my underwear and try to take a shower? And there was lots of people walking around. I was desperate. And Wilma said, go for it. So I stripped down to my underwear and there was just a hose, a spigot with just a short hose. And I just did my best to clean up and it was just coming off. It was just horrible. So we get on the ship, went 45 minutes. And then we had about another hour, right?
An hour drive.
Yeah, an hour drive once we got to Negros to get to the actual apartment. So when it all said and done, we were up, Wilma and I, for 42 hours.
Yes.
Because once the moving van got to the apartment, we weren't done. We had an empty apartment. We had to unload the entire truck, and then our own truck, get everything in. The guys were contracted to set up the beds and all that. We had to, any food that we had in the refrigerator, we had in Leyte, we had to put away. We basically have to unload the whole truck. So that took several hours. So finally, when the guys left, we were done. We were up for 42 hours. We just basically crashed. And said that was a nightmare move. It was difficult. So we wanted to share that story, that things is not always peaches and cream.
No.
Things is not always rosy and perfect every day. There's definitely challenges. That was a very difficult 42 hours. We're very glad we did it.
Yeah.
We have definitely a funny story to tell. But we finally did get from Leyte to Negros Oriental. So when you hear me say, this is it, this is our last bill, this is our last move, now you know why. So thanks guys for listening. I hope you enjoyed our nightmare move and we'll talk to you later.